Hello, YouTube. Guys, I've done some advanced Feral Druid guides so far this season for you. I've also had an in-depth, Theorycraft Chat with Guilty, a Feral Druid Theory Crafter, and we had, a 2-hour chat. I would recommend going and checking out the advanced guide and that video whenever you can. But right now, this video is poised for people who are maybe returning to Feral after a bit of a break, or are, new to Feral, never touched it, and just want basic overviews, just want to really understand Feral at its core. I would love these kinds of videos if I was picking up a new spec that I'd never played before and just want to know, okay, I get all my abilities, but, how the hell does it all work? What's the interplay? What's the stuff behind the scenes that the game doesn't really explain to you, but it's really core and you really want to know? That's what this video is for. So, Feral right now is performing well in pure single target, large AoE, we've got good funnel. That's where we're performing well. We are also quite tanky. We have, we can play different hero talents in Raid and in Mythic Plus. So right now you've got a lot of variation available, and it's really quite fun. The playstyle is fun, so, and we're performing well. So, cool. Now, Feral at its core is an energy spending and, energy generating spec, which is using energy to generate combo points, and then using those combo points on finishing abilities, so bleeds and instant damage abilities, Ferocious Bite, Rip, Primal Wrath, that kind of stuff. And we don't really have long cooldowns on any of our abilities. Obviously, we're a 2-minute CD class, but in general, if I Thrash, if I Rake, if I Shred, I mean, Brutal Slash technically has a CD, but it's reduced by haste, and also you have 3 charges of it, so in general, you can kind of press any ability whenever, so it becomes about pressing the right ability in the right scenario, more so for Feral. Now, also, Feral is something I like to advise people to think of Feral in not lists of 3, this isn't an English class, but think of Feral in sets of 3, right? So, there's a talent, Primal Fury, which basically just whenever we crit with a generating ability, we get 2 combo points, not 1, and we have 5 combo points max, no matter what build you're in. So, if you think about every ability critting, then we do 1 generator, that's 2 combo points. Second one is going to get us 4 combo points. Last one's going to get us up to 5. Even if not all of those crit, generally 3 generators will get us to 5 combo points, particularly in AoE, because you're more likely to crit with Thrash and Brutal Slash, which are our AoE abilities. And then you can do a Rake or a Shred, whatever, and it's going to get you up to your 5th combo point. So 3 generators, 1 finisher. 3 generators, 1 finisher. In general, that's how it will work for you. Now, we also have a core talent to Feral, Blood Talons, which is 3 different generators will empower your next 3 finishers. So again, if I do 3 different generators, then I get 3 Blood Talons, which empowers my next 3 finishers. We also have Adaptive Swarm, which is an ability that increases our periodic damage, and it has, would you believe, 3 stacks. Everything with Feral is just 3, 3, 3s, okay? It takes 3 talents to get Berserk. That's a joke. It's not a joke, it's real, and it's painful. So, Feral is sets of 3. That's a good way to frame it. Now, the last core thing I want to explain about Feral is something called Pandemic Windows and Snapshotting. Now, these sound scary, and people always get really confused about them. Very simple things. And a lot of it plays itself. So, you don't have to think too heavily about it, but it is something to keep in mind. If you have played any other hot class or dot class, you know what a pandemic window is already. Pandemic window is a point at which you can reapply a dot, and it will add the remaining duration onto the new duration, right? So Thrash, default, is technically my talent loadout makes it a 12-second duration. If I reapply Thrash at any point in its duration, it'll go up to 15 seconds, right? So, default 12, and it means that I can reapply Thrash at any point after it has 3 seconds remaining or less, and it will apply that remaining duration onto the new bleed, so I don't lose anything. Now, if Thrash has 6 seconds remaining, and I re-Thrash, then I'm only going to retain 3 seconds of that 6 seconds. So 3 seconds of that Thrash just gets wasted, which means I could have used a different ability. So if you want to min-max your dots and min-max your bleeds, then try and always reapply in the pandemic window, which is from 0 seconds to about 30 seconds, I think, or 30 or 25% of the remaining bleed. It's somewhere in that window, 25, 30%. Remaining, you can reapply the bleed. Then you have snapshotting. Snapshotting is super, like, there's only a couple things you have to think about with snapshotting. Snapshotting is when you apply a bleed or a dot, it will be enhanced by the enhancements you have at the moment of application, right? Now, this doesn't affect trinkets and procs and stuff like that and embellishments and whatever. It's only affected by Tiger Fury and Blood Talons. So for your Rip, you want to, and Primal Wrath Rip, they work the same. Primal Wrath is just an AoE Rip, but your Rip or your Primal Wrath, they benefit from Blood Talons and Tiger Fury, but the rest of your bleeds and periodic effects only are affected by Tiger Fury. So, Tiger Fury could have 1 second remaining, and you apply a single target Rip that lasts 20 seconds. The full 20 seconds of that dot is going to be dealing damage as if you still have Tiger Fury. So what that means is that as long as you apply your bleeds with Tiger Fury still running, the full effect will be empowered. Now that's snapshotting. Dynamic would be something like Adaptive Swarm. Adaptive Swarm is dynamic, which means that you're only going to get the amplification of the effect while, at the point at which you apply Adaptive Swarm, right? So if I have a bleed rolling, and then I apply Adaptive Swarm, this will now enhance the bleed, even though the bleed was already active, and then I've Adaptive Swarmed, right? That's dynamic. That means the bleed will be enhanced tick by tick, right? So Adaptive Swarm is something that you don't need to make sure that you Adaptive Swarm and then apply a bleed. You can Adaptive Swarm after. So that's snapshotting. It's not actually too complicated. There's only a couple things you have to track. Tiger Fury for all bleeds and Blood Talons just for Rip or Primal Wrath. So that's a lot of like the basics of Feral. Now we can talk about some of like core ability things. Some things that I just want to talk you through some abilities, because what I find is people don't always read things, and or they read things and then forget. So really at its core, Shred is really important because Shred deals increased damage. In fact, let me get myself out of the way here so you can actually see these. Shred deals increased damage against bleeding targets. So Shred generally is not the ability that you want to do immediately into combat. You'd want to be doing it after things are already bleeding. And then, while stealthed, Shred deals 60% increased damage and has double the chance to crit and generates 1 additional combo point, which is quite a lot of stuff, right? So from stealth, it's like, oh, well, I'm not getting the benefit of the bleed, but it's doing all this stuff that's really good. That all sounds really good. Maybe I do want to Shred from stealth. Not necessarily, because there are ways to gain the stealth benefit while not actually doing things from stealth. So this is the talent that's going to empower both Rake and Shred when used from stealth, right? And then this is the talent which is going to give you the effect of being in stealth. So finishing moves have a 6% chance per combo point spent to make your next Rake or Shred deal damage as though you were stealthed, right? So this is something that you can track. You can use the default Blizzard UI to track this. So if I use a finisher now, look at this section of the screen here. Eventually I'll get one. Eventually I'll get one. Eventually I'll get one. Eventually I'll get one. This is very bad luck. There it is, and I got 2 in a row. So there's a sudden ambush icon that you can look for, and it will, that's now going to empower my Shred. So if I now Shred, that's got the sudden ambush effect, which means it was used as if it was from stealth. Now, I've spoken about Shred. There's also the benefit on Rake. So if we read what Rake does. So, so Rake just applies the Rake bleed, but then while stealth, Rake will also stun the target for 4 seconds and deal 60% increased damage. And if you have the talent double clawed Rake, Rake is actually going to hit 2 targets, which means it stuns 2 targets and does 60% increased damage on 2 targets. 2 better than 1. So in general, stealth Rake is better than Stealth Shred. Also, Rake just does more damage per use than Shred. So even on single target, Stealth Rake is still better than Stealth Shred. And then, when you're in like Raid and stuff, that's when you can be deciding whether to use Sudden Ambush on Shred or Rake, depending on the scenario. So if like Rake is in its pandemic window, right? Short duration remaining on the bleed, Sudden Ambush Rake, really good, really powerful, better than Stealth Shred, or, Sudden Ambush Shred. So there's like some core talents here that you can look at that's going to affect your generators. Now, in general, a lot of that stuff does play itself, so don't get too stressed about like, oh my god, now I've got to like track this extra thing and worry about what to use. In general, it plays itself. Don't worry about it too much. It's like a marginal gain if used optimally. So, like, don't stress too much, but it's just something to consider. So that's Shred, that's Rake. Next generator, Thrash. Thrash is just the AoE bleed, does a smidge of damage. In general, if it gets its full duration, it's quite powerful, especially in AoE. But it's like energy expensive. It's 40 energy, and like per use, it's not very great. Like, you're never spamming Thrash in AoE or anything like that. You're maintaining it in single target, because one Thrash will do more damage than one Shred, and they're the same energy cost. But Thrash has to get its full duration. It's quite well tuned, actually. Now, Brutal Slash is really good, and we're using it in most environments. We're not generally using it in like Wildstalker single target in Raid, but in Mythic Plus, we're always running Brutal Slash. DOTC and Raid, we're running Brutal Slash. Burst AoE, running Brutal Slash. So you'll generally be using this. Now this, you can see the time remaining is green, like the recharge time is green. That means it's haste reduced, which means the more haste you have, the lower the recharge duration. Like if I just take off my haste heavy necklace, it's actually a 6.6 recharge rate, right? So more haste means more Brutal Slashes, which is good. Brutal Slash hits really hard, also deals 15% increased damage against bleeding targets. So again, something you want to use when things are already bleeding. Now, bleed effects that you can use on AoE is like Thrash, then Brutal Slashing, right? Like, you generally don't want to Brutal Slash and then Thrash, because it's not going to do as much damage. Primal Wrath is another bleed that you can use, that's just AoE. That is your finisher. So those are all like your generators. You've got Shred, you've got Rake, you've got Thrash, you've got Brutal Slash. Some environments, the final generator that you'll have is Feral Frenzy. Well, second final, actually. Feral Frenzy is also a combo point generator and is used in raids. Generally, don't really use it as much in Mythic Plus, though you can if you really, really want to. You basically just use it on CD. You don't have to think too much about it, but it gets you 5 combo points. Pretty good. Moonfire is the final generator, and that is only used with Wildstalker, and specifically only in a raid build. You don't run it in Mythic Plus. But again, it's just an extra dot to use, and it's just one additional thing to track. But those are all your generators. In terms of your finishers, you have Primal Wrath. If you're in any environment where you're fighting more than one target, I mean, you might not use it in like, you might not even use it in like Soulbinders or like Lumathar, but you're always playing it in Mythic Plus, always, and like something like Araz, or like you'd use it. You might not use it on Nexus King. You just go pure single target on Nexus King Mythic, because you'd just be padding. But yeah, Primal Wrath, all it is an AoE rip. Hits everything in AoE, uncapped. It's mental. That's it. AoE rip. It just doesn't last as long as rip. So Primal Wrath you'll use in 2 or more targets. Rip you use in pure single target. Simple. So that's one of your finishers. Rip, as I just mentioned, is your bleed single target ability, and then you have Ferocious Bite, which is a non-bleed finisher. Now, key thing about Ferocious Bite, it costs 25 energy. However, it will do more damage if you use an additional 25 energy. So you always bite at 50 or more energy, because it's going to do 100% increased damage. Now, in your cooldown windows, might be slightly different there, but generally, you are, like, pooling to 50 energy, then you send the bite. That's all of, like, the core rotational stuff with our rotation and our abilities and how they're working. Let me now talk about sort of, like, just a basic rotation. So, in general, you are trying to, the aim in say like AoE here, and even single target, is to get 5 combo points as quickly as possible and make sure that you use 3 different generators to proc your Blood Talons talent, which is then going to empower your finishers. That's really important that that's like the first thing that you do in combat. Generate 5 combo points, generate Blood Talons at the same time, and then start using finishers, and then you can be looking to get into cooldown windows, okay? So what I would do in AoE, as I said, stealth, then you would rake, then you can thrash to get everything bleeding, then you can brutal slash, then you can Tiger Fury, Berserk, Primal Wrath. Then you can do like brutal slash, ravage, or bite, and then you can send the Convoke. Now when you leave Convoke, top tip is to brutal slash and get the Blood Talons there, then you can re-Primal Wrath, then you brutal slash, bite, brutal slash, bite, brutal slash, bite during the full duration of your Berserk. The reason being, if you're running DOTC, it's because of this talent, Claw Rampage, which means that during Berserk, your Shred, Brutal Slash, and Thrash have a 25% increased chance to, or 25% chance to make your next Ferocious Bite become Ravage. Druid of the Claw is all about Ravage. Ravage is just an empowered bite. It works functionally, exact same, it just replaces the icon. What Ravage does is apply a bleed and do big, like, bite damage. So, in AoE, Ravage will hit everything if you're running this talent, Rampant Ferocity, which just makes it so that your bite or your Ravage hit everything with rip on them. So, like, if I Primal Wrath everything, and then I bite, then, like, here, I just procced a Ravage, that bite is going to cleave everything. You can see this icon here, Dreadful Wound. That bite or that Ravage is going to hit everything with rip on it. The aim of the game for Feral is get your Primal Wrath rip on everything and then try and bite as much as possible. Now, you might be thinking, Sai, didn't Feral used to play in a way where you were like Primal Wrath spamming in AoE, not biting that much? Yes, last expansion. The talent that was causing that was called Tear Open Wound. We don't have that anymore. So, now, as long as your Primal Wrath rips are applied, you are biting as much as possible and only reapplying Primal Wrath when it's either about to fall off. Well, yeah, only when it's about to fall off or it has already fallen off, right? So you just want to maintain Primal Wrath and then you're biting. Now, something that's going to affect your bites is this talent here called Apex Predator. Apex Predator makes it so that rip damage has a chance to make your next Ferocious Bite free and deal the maximum damage. What does that mean? Remember how I said Ferocious Bite does 100% increased damage if you use it at 50 energy? What that means is that Apex Bites, these free bites, which if you look, whenever your bite is glowing, that's an Apex box. See right there, it's just started glowing. I'm at 2 combo points. I'm gonna use this bite. I'm still at 2 combo points, and I didn't use any energy, right? So that is an Apex bite. It's super powerful in AoE, and it's something that you want to be using whenever it procs, right? It's very important. So, gameplay loop. Generate 5 combo points using 3 different generators. Use Primal Wrath. Go into your cooldown window with like Tiger Fury, Berserk, then Convoke. When you leave Convoke, even though you're going to overcap combo points, you use Brutal Slash. Why? Convoke is designed very specifically. If you read it, you will do, I think it's, 16 abilities. It used to be 12. 16 abilities, back in Shadowlands, and then they buffed it. 16 abilities in 4 seconds. Now, this will be a random assortment of Ferocious Bite, Shred, Moonfire, Wrath, Regrowth, Rejuve, Rake, Thrash, right? And it will always do some healing, some balance-based, and then some feral, right? What you know is that it cannot Brutal Slash. So when you're generating Blood Talons, you know that Convoke has very likely used, like, Thrash and Rake, but maybe no Shreds. Or some kind of combination of that. But what it definitely hasn't done is Brutal Slash. So, if you leave your Convoke window... this guy jumping around is annoying, and then you Brutal Slash, there we go. I got Blood Talons. And what that means is that you're then set up for your next 3 finishers to be empowered. If you don't do that, it's really awkward to generate Blood Talons during your like cooldown window because you have so many combo points. And really, when you're playing DOTC specifically, the only thing you want to be doing when you leave your Convoke window and you're still in Berserk is Brutal Slash or Thrash if you don't have Brutal Slash, but Brutal Slash, Bite, Brutal Slash, Bite. Even if you overcap, like, I don't care. Even if the sky is falling, Brutal Slash, Bite. Because you have, like, a guaranteed chance to get that Ravage, which is going to make all of your damage just, like, very, very mega juicy. Reason being, our current tier set, Ravage increases our haste and our crit by 10% for 5 seconds, and the damage your bleeds deal by 30% for 5 seconds, right? So all of our bleeds are going to do 30% more damage whenever we get a Ravage bite. Then also, the 4 set means that Ravage has a 40% chance to make you Ravage your target again 4 seconds later at 100% of the initial power. So, your Ravages have a chance to give you more Ravages, which means more bleed damage increase, more stats, more Ravage. Fantastic. So, really, during DOTC, it's like Brutal, Ravage in AoE. In single target, you're only going to have that 25% chance, so you can do the regular rotation of, like, one generator, finisher. A different generator, finisher. A final generator, finisher. And you can do that on pure single target, because any generator, Shred, Brutal Slash, or Thrash, is a 25% chance. I guess generally during your Berserk window, you don't want to rake as much on single target, but you can rake before you go into the Berserk window, and then pretty much when the Berserk window's over. So that shouldn't be too much of a problem. What else here? So that's with, like, DOTC. In general, I think most people are just going to play DOTC, so I don't want to spend too much time on Wildstalker, but Wildstalker plays slightly differently. It's a lot more a lot more mentally taxing. So Wildstalker is all about generating these vines. These vines are created by rip and rake damage. So the more mobs that you rake spread on, the more vines you're going to get. Rip, we know, can be universally applied with Primal Wrath, so you don't have to stress too much about that. But Wildstalker means you need to be rake spreading way more. And also, you need to be keeping attention on these vines, because whenever you bite a vine target, it's going to explode in AoE. Now, also, because of the tier set, so the rate at which your Bloodseeker vines grow is increased by 40%. Tiger Fury causes vines to grow on 3 valid nearby enemies. Now, I think currently, these vines can only grow on targets that already have either Rip or Rake on them. That's a little, I don't know if that's a bug or not. But don't Tiger Fury before the mobs have bleeds. Bloodseeker Vines have a 20% chance to trigger bursting growth every 2 seconds at 100% effectiveness. Each stack of Bloodseeker Vines on an enemy increases bursting growth damage taken by 40%. So this is just get as many vines going as you possibly can. I'll show you a bit more of the rotation. So it's, at its core, exactly the same. Can I target one of these mobs, please? There we go. So, Rake, Thrash, Brutal Slash, Tiger Fury, Berserk, Primal Wrath, Send Convoke. Now, I'm on this vine target here, right? Leaving Convoke, and I would Brutal Slash. Then I jump to a new vine target. Here's a vine target. I'm rake spreading, making sure I'm generating my Blood Talons, reapplying my Primal Wrath. So I'm following these mobs with rake on them. There's a vine target. I can bite that one. I'm at over 50 energy. So this gameplay loop is a lot more focused on rake spreading and tracking for these core vine targets and never letting your rip drop. In DOTC, if your rip drops for like a second or two, it's not the end of the world. Not the case with Wildstalker, because you're losing vine growth. And this gameplay, while a little bit less like degenerate with like playing around the claw rampage with DOTC, this gameplay is a lot more like just traditional feral. Rake spread, maintain Primal Wrath, bada bing, bada boom, generate Blood Talons, simple stuff. And it's quite fun, actually, and you can see the damage is pretty good. Most of my damage coming from bursting growth and the vines. It's very dot heavy, very periodic damage. It's pretty fun to track the vines. I kind of like it, but it's way more mentally taxing. So most people are likely going to stick with just DOTC. In Raid, you can play either or. It doesn't matter. So let me show you different builds. I'm probably going to get combat stuck here. So let me show you different builds. So this is a Wildstalker AoE Mythic Plus build, right? At the top of the tree, you're grabbing all the core things. Grabbing Double Clawed Rake, grabbing Tireless Energy, grabbing all the standard stuff in AoE. Nothing weird there. DOTC, the only thing that changes is that you drop Tireless Energy and you go Merciless Claws. Because this build, you're way less energy starved, because you're doing way less like rake spreading, and just generally like you just find that you're way less energy starved. So you can go Merciless Claws, which just increases our Brutal Slash and Tread damage. Cool. Now, you can play DOTC with Incon. The reason you would play an Incon is just to play around more Claw Rampage. You can do that if you want. If you don't really like Convoke, you can go Incon. If you don't really like Swarm, you can do double CI. That's totally fine too. Now, for DOTC single target, it looks like this. We play Coil to Spring. We don't with Wildstalker. Everything else, exactly the same as Wildstalker would be. Except when we get here. DOTC, we play Brutal Slash. With Wildstalker, play Lunar Inspiration. Everything else the same. We played Saberjaws here with DOTC because we're all about big bites. Don't play Circle of Life and Death because we want more bites, fewer rips. Right? This reduces the duration of our bleeds. We don't want that. We want long bleeds so we get more bites, massive damage increase on our bites. Boom. We play Feral Frenzy in Raid, not so much in Mythic Plus. Cool. Wildstalker looks a little smidge different, right? So Wildstalker, we don't play Cord Spring, we play a second Tireless Energy, gives us more energy. Amazing. We don't play Brutal Slash, as I mentioned, we play Lunar Inspiration. That's where we're incorporating Moonfire into our rotation. Everything else the same. Come to the bottom of the tree, we are playing Circle of Life and Death, not playing Saberjaws. Depending on the boss, we're either playing Double Swarm or we're playing Double CI. CI just makes it so our Tiger Fury damage increase is like buffed by 12%. Instead of 15%. Well, sorry, it's buffed by 27% instead of 15%. Oh, single target, DOTC and Wildstalker, pretty similar. Mythic Plus, DOTC and Wildstalker, exactly the same. You can play whichever hero talent you want in Mythic Plus. Last thing I guess I want to talk about is Swarm. Scary, spooky. Swarm is simple math. When you apply Swarm to an ally or an enemy, it has 3 stacks on it. If you reapply Swarm, it will cap at 5 stacks, right? The way that you're using Swarm is... This is the basic video, isn't it? Find an enemy that doesn't have Swarm on it and press it. Done. I'll save that for a more advanced video. This, I think, is a full breakdown, a basic overview of everything that Feral's trying to achieve right now, from a pure damage standpoint. Been a bit long, but it has to be. I think that covers pretty much everything I want to talk about. If you guys have any specifics that you feel haven't been covered, let me know, and I will make a follow-up video. If you feel like, oh, Sai, you still haven't spoken about XYZ, let me know. In case I didn't mention it at the beginning of the video, our stat weights are Mastery, and then Haste is equivalent to Crit, but you should always just Sim. That's the final thing. Like I say, go watch the Advanced Guide, go watch the Feral Druid chat that I had with Guilty, a Theory Crafter, and then look out for more videos to come based on Feral. Come subscribe to me on Twitch. It's how I can afford to keep doing this and keep making these videos. It really helps me out. Yeah, I'd really appreciate that. Or sub to me on Kick, where I actually get more money if you sub to me on Kick. Whatever. Or come donate to the stream or whatever. Helps me keep going, and I really appreciate it. Thanks very much, guys. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this has been a good basic overview for you on Feral. See you again.